Dragon Age II is the sequel to Dragon Age Origins, a video game made by BioWare which told the tale of 6 origins of a hero who was involved in grand-scale saving the medieval fantasy world from evil sort of plot. The plot of Dragon Age Origins neatly concluded and gave the sequel plenty of room to do whatever it wanted. The numerous individual plots of Dragon Age II are composed, expressed, developed, in general, fairly well. They're entertaining and have a lot to say. The problem is how they all relate to each other per act, finally culminating the main theme in the final act. In the prologue, the protagonist Hawke, their sister, brother, and mother are escaping Lothering from the Blight out of survival. Being refugees, they decide to go to Kirkwall because they have family there. They meet and team up with Aveline and her husband Sir Wesley. They get swarmed by Darkspawn, and this mysterious old dragon lady saves them. In exchange for saving their lives, she wants Hawke to deliver an amulet to some elves near Kirkwall. Sir Wesley dies, as is one of Hawke's siblings. If you're a mage, then Bethany; if not, then Carver. After a lengthy boat ride, everyone arrives in Kirkwall, and through their cousin Gemlin have to help out one of 2 groups with a task. This task ends up taking an entire year, which involves paying off their debt to enter the city. Okay, everything makes sense. The only 2 problems with the prologue are the death of the sibling and the 1-year time lapse. The sibling really has no drama. We didn't have time to get to know them, and they suddenly attack an ogre and die. Hawke doesn't give a damn, so neither should I. Heck, I like Sir Wesley more. I decided to plunge a dagger into his torso with Flemeth and Aveline looking on. The time skip issue is again just made to showcase that to get 4 people into the city took a lot of money and time. This could have been done in 1 month or 1 week for all it was worth. Nothing changes the entire year. Hawke is just simply known around town, so what? If Hawke and their sibling become more jaded or scarred, tougher, weaker, or changed in some way as a result of it, that would have been a simple showcase of character development and with proper exposition to justify a year of events. Heck, I would have gone for a facial scar. The sibling comments on this a little, but it doesn't really constitute any change. In Act 1, Hawke and their siblings seek fame and fortune to escape their living conditions out of love for their mom and their heritage. They meet up with Bartrand and his brother Varric, who are planning an expedition for treasure. Instead of just a hireling, Varric recommends becoming a business partner to invest in the expedition. All the subplots support this. They're there to make enough money to advance the plot. After acquiring said money, one must do 3 things: find maps for the expedition, talk to our mom, and deliver that amulet to the elves. At least, that's what I thought. This is all done in one giant series of plots and subplots. We learn about a Grey Warden in the city who has the maps we need for the expedition. We find and help them, Anders, by helping his friend by killing him, and he decides to come along. We also discover he's an abomination. We now need to wrap up any business we have before setting off, and our sibling reminds us we have to go talk to our mom. However, we don't actually have to talk to our mom, we just have to enter Gemlin's house. Or so I thought. Our sibling reminds us we have to go deliver that amulet to the elves. So we've been here for an entire year, but we didn't do that yet? What, could we never leave the city? When we meet the elves, we have to deliver the amulet to a certain place on top of the mountain. We have to perform a ritual, which involves having some elf girl help us. This is Meryl, and then she has to stay with us permanently. Alright, Meryl is a blood mage, which is considered evil magic stuff that summons demons. And cutting yourself across the bones of your hand with loud sound effects is generally a very bad thing too. So we meet up with Flemeth again for no reason aside from the most extremely vague foreshadowing ever, and finally get to replace Carver with anyone else. Back to Bartrand, but Varric says I have to go deal with some family issues, but I don't really want to. I just want to get on with the plot. Okay, whatever, back to Gamlen's house. So they're arguing about some will, like how come we're not nobility yet, like they wouldn't have done this the first day they got in the city? Was our mother not surprised she'd be living in a shack for an entire year? What the hell was she doing? So the plan is to sneak into our old estate and steal the will. The estate is owned by slavers, which are illegal, so why didn't we call the guard or the chantry or the viscount to help us? Well, obviously we wouldn't have anything to kill, so we sneak in and steal it. Finally, so we go back to Bartrand and...
Time to wrap up any business you have in the city, my friend. We'll be gone for several weeks at least.
Wait, what?
Time to wrap up any business you have in the city, my friend. We'll be gone for several weeks at least.
What business? We did what Varric said, but no one's saying anything. Okay, I guess I have to check my journal again. Let's see. Aveline. How is she part of the main quest? She has a job as a guardsman and will be gone for several weeks. Well, let's see if this progresses the plot then. So we pass by the big giant bird that symbolizes birds, and then we finally make it to the Viscount's Keep where there's another big bird and then Aveline. So we finally get to flip her the bird and we get back to Bartrand.
Time to wrap up any business you have in the city, my friend. We'll be gone for several weeks at least.
Okay, at this point I think I'm playing the game wrong. You see, I think the Dragon Age 2 team wants to tell me a series of other stories aside from Hawke's plot. To do that, Hawke has to be a busybody getting involved in rumors throughout Kirkwall. These rumors become other main plots, which is really weird. So really, Act 1 is a series of main plots or quests which support the real main plot of the expedition through their resolution, their point being to acquire money. Some are simple and good, and some are unnecessarily long and contrived, my favorite being shepherding wolves. Through sheer number, it's convoluted, but the connection to the real main plot is not too contrived. These other main plots are found along the way, and in some cases elements from others are interconnected. And why should we or Hawke care? Because we need the money. It's as simple as that. Of course, in this example, when you already have the money, it's not connected very well. The main plots are: in Wayward Son, a half-elf mage having special dreams has been captured by bandits. In Black Powder Promise, a dwarf wants to purchase the formula to the Qunari explosive powder for business. In Shepherding Wolves, a conniving sister in the Chantry wants to free a captive Qunari mage. In Enemies Among Us, rebellious mages are implanting demons into normal people. In Act of Mercy, blood mages are trying to escape Kirkwall. These stories flesh out Kirkwall and its major themes, the main theme being slavery versus freedom, or the struggle between the mages and the Templars. There are zealots, opportunists, and innocents on both sides, though it definitely looks like mages are getting the larger, more evil, and uglier end of the stick. The inclusion of the character Cullen from Dragon Age Origins is a perfect fit. He has first-hand knowledge of what happens when blood magic is involved. Unfortunately, this is one of two possible retcons, but I'm devoting an entire section to those later. The narrative is now literally bogged down with characters, events, mages, blood mages, Templars, Templar zealots, random violence from thugs, the Coterie, Chantry people, city guards, apparently the Dwarven Merchants Guild, Qunari or Talvashoth, and that's just the first act. I can see the sandbox appeal, but I can't keep track of this wild menagerie of plots that will hopefully lead somewhere. Why couldn't the plot unfold naturally in a singular fashion, leading to the next plot point, instead of just random threads that end and start up again years later? The majority of the game is spent looking at the journal and the minimap. How does Hawke even know some random item goes to some random person in the city? Wouldn't it have made sense to contact a gossiper, a rumor monger, or that specific city district's city leader who knew everyone on the block, and then you can go about discovering how these items belong to whomever? Or just sell them for a lesser price? Because that connection, the money, would support the main plot of Act 1. In fact, that would have supported the premise: show Hawke's rise to power through giving the random people of the city their lost items or heirlooms, earning their favor. The worst thing about these items is they're called plot items. Not mission items, not courier items, or whatever theme, character trait, or role that Hawke is in. These things aren't even literary devices. They're just some items going, hey, I'm Object X inside Plot 23B. The plot or plots of a story are told and shown through the causes of events of characters that should develop and occur naturally. These items come out of nowhere and break the fourth wall, simply by being called plot items. The journal page I can accept because it needs to bring clarity to the sheer number of plots and threads and characters, this chimeric smorgasbord of a narrative, and we can make believe Hawke is keeping track of these things somehow. Because as soon as I see a plot item, I have to go to the journal and start searching for what that plot was. So we're finally on the expedition. We find out that the Dwarven Teg was actually abandoned, yet there are golems here, which is odd since if this Teg was before the time of Cassidon, how did golems get here? Interestingly enough, there is a statue of a paragon, I think. It's a little obscure, but no one seems to care, nor does anyone comment on the statue. So we find some pure lyrium idol that never gets explained. We get betrayed by Bartrand, fight some evil thing, and that's it. If we bring our sibling, they magically die. If we bring Anders, then the sibling becomes a Grey Warden and then go away. It all happens out of the blue. No character development, no plot development, no foreshadowing, no scene beforehand of our sibling injured by darkspawn. This is actually worse than our first sibling's death. Didn't we just have a scene like this with Sir Wesley? Wasn't he unable to fight the entire time we knew him and then we discover he's tainted? What, did the writers forget to set up the scene when the exact previously existing scene worked better? It's really easy to showcase the two scenes and see how one is better than the other. I would have hoped that stories get better the further they are told, especially when very similar scenes or ideas are shown again. So anyway, if we didn't bring them along, Carver joins the Templars, or Bethany is forced into the Circle, and Mom isn't too happy about either. We end up moving into our ancestral state in Hightown. And we get another time skip, this time 3 years, for absolutely no reason. Acquiring and cleaning up the estate could have taken like a week or so, maybe 2 at the most. For this rundown, I'm going to bring out the big guns. Let's look at the logical, emotional, and credible literary technique of Act I, also referred to as logos, pathos, and ethos. All the main plots support the overarching plot through their conclusion, which is money. However, after the money is found, the introduction of new main plots or rumors aren't presented right, which means their purpose is irrelevant, but we're forced to progress the story by finishing them off anyway. The main plots themselves are told well, and some are very emotionally moving, like the story of Katogen in Shepherding Wolves. But some aren't, like in the drawn-out search for Fainriel and the mindless combat scenes in Wayward Son. All the plots develop the main theme, which is the plight of the mages and the dangers of magic. The point of this kind of game is to take part in the universe and setting we're in, and these numerous plots do flesh out the world. The sheer number of them convolute the overarching plot. This is also supposedly a tale of Hawk, yet they don't change or grow in any way as a result of concluding all these other plots. This is slowly becoming Dragon Age 2 random episodes in Kirkwall, as opposed to Dragon Age 2 A Rise to Power. By the way, Aristotle says episodic plots are the worst kind. Varric is integral. We can clearly see his opinion of his brother change. However, the possible death or removal of our sibling from the narrative out of the blue without proper foreshadowing, with a pre-existing scene of it already occurring, without showing any improvement to this occurrence or personal value, is simply sloppy writing. I'm not just pissed my sibling died, I'm pissed the narrative didn't tell or show it to me properly. And again, another time skip, this time 3 years, is also completely unnecessary. So, like Dragon Age Origins, Act 1's overarching plot is complete, giving Act 2 lots of wiggle room to do whatever it wants.